So today I'm going to make drawer inserts for a good friend of mine. So I've decided to make it out of scrap wood that I picked up at a job site. It was actually dunnage. It was wood that was used as dunnage. And as soon as I picked a piece up, I knew it wasn't spruce or pine. I knew it was a hardwood just based on the weight and the density. So I ended up grabbing every piece that I could. It was actually quite a few pieces. So I've worked with it before. I've built a few things, and it's a maple. And this is what it looks like once it's all planed down and milled. So it gives a really cool grain and look. So I think this is going to be perfect for what we need. I've got my engineer drawings, which is always the first thing we start with. He wants two of them. They're basically 19¼ inch long, 15 1/8 inch wide, and they have all these inserts in them. For now, I'm going to start just focusing on the outside. I'm going to do 45-degree corners with spline reinforcement in each edge, and I'll use walnut for that. On my hospital cart repurpose, I used the same wood and I'm using the same style just because it turned out really good. I think it looks really sharp. So that's what we're going to do. This is what it's going to look like when we've milled it all down. To do that, we're going to cut it to the rough length that we need. So I'll probably just do all the pieces 20 inches long. So I'll start by cutting the rough pieces, which look like this right now. I will be using my metal detector to make sure there's no screws or nails or chunks of metal before I run it through my thickness planer. I'm going to start by cutting all my rough pieces. I'll figure out how many of the inserts I'll need, so I'm going to do all of the pieces at once, but I'm going to cut them quite long. I'll probably cut all of them at 20 inches. That gives me a lot of options and room to play with as far as grain and things like that. So we will start with getting these cut to a length 20 inches on my miter saw. Then we will from there move over to the thickness planer, get a flat surface, true surface to work with, and from there we'll slice them into the right width. So let's go. That's the introduction. So I got my pieces rough cut. Got 3 of them at 20 inches and 2 of them at 16. So as you can see, they're not, don't make a liar out of me, they're not level. They're not perfectly straight. They're warped and kinked and all kinds of shit. So to get them straight, I can't just run them through the thickness planer like that because it'll just follow its same form and I'll end up with a pretty looking warped piece, which does me no good. So the method that I use to get it perfectly flat is I've got these scraps of particle board that I've used many times. As you can see, it gives me a perfectly flat, smooth reference point. So all I have to do is get my wedges and my glue gun. Wait a second. Glue gun, wedges. Plug this puppy in so it starts heating up. Warm up. I'll just wedge the high end. Okay, there. So now when I push it on any corner, there's no movement. So I know that I've got a flat surface. As soon as that warms up, I can glue that one down. I'll start prepping my next one. These wedges, luckily the thinnest part is too thick, which means that the pieces aren't that warped. So it's a good thing when you don't need these wedges. I keep all my thin cutoffs. I've got a little bucket down here that I keep for this very reason. Gives me some thin wedges so that I can make wedges. That's what we like to see. And I usually try to find the best, the flattest end to start with, flattest end down. Beautiful. We'll put a couple of dabs like that, and that's all it takes. If there's a gap, rather than having wedges the whole way, I'll just press my glue gun up tight and just squirt some so that it gets underneath. And that'll, once it dries, that'll actually support it as well. As long as you've got it wedged so that it's not moving, then on the sides or the midsections, you can just use hot glue. I do anyway, and I've never had an issue with it, so it comes with my personal guarantee for what that's worth. Now I'll let that drip hot glue on my nice floor while I prep the next one. And you'll see that this glue comes off fairly easy from the surface of this particle board. See there, now if that went through the thickness planer like that, the thickness planer puts a lot of downward force to a specific area. So it'll push down here when it's planing here, which is going to bring this end up. Then when it's over here, it's going to push down to bring that end up. So that's how you don't have a level surface. So that's why it's important to wedge it, even if they're not warped like that. If they're bowed, you still need to wedge it. So even if there's no side movement and just vertical movement, wedge it. Should we do this one? Yeah, what the heck. If you're gonna do it right. Now I put my glue gun on. Wow, I'm shocked that that warped as much as it did, because I had this leveled off, probably, when was it? Well, it would have been in the summer, so I guess it sat over the winter, and already it warped that much, because it was perfectly flat a few months ago. And that's one of the other downsides with working with rough lumber like this, that I literally picked up off the ground. It had spent its whole life sitting outside on construction sites as dunnage. It's the nicest dunnage I've ever seen in my life. So I was quite excited when I found it, and no one else wanted it, so I claimed it. I was quite excited. But that's the downfall is, and I don't have a moisture tester. I should get one. They're not that expensive, because I do a lot of woodworking with wood that I find, because the price is so expensive these days. But I enjoy the hunt for the wood, like for the perfect pallet or stuff like this. But the downfall with using wood that hasn't been professionally kiln dried and seasoned, you got to deal with this. I'm not worried once I've got it all cut into smaller pieces and put together in a structure. If it warps a little bit, I'm sure it will. But being thinner, like these pieces are, I cut these at the same time that I cut this one. Won't have an impact, guarantee. Another personal guarantee. Right. It's 2 guarantees in one video. Could get expensive. That is beautiful. Now, can we? Yes. I've just converted this into a cordless glue gun. I ran out of glue. So with my cordless glue gun, I'm going to glue this last piece in. Over to the thickness planer. Come on, let's go. So now that I have one side flattened, it is just a matter of, look at that grain. How cool is that? Very cool. So now I just clean the glue off, which is oddly satisfying to me. I think because it cuts so nice with a sharp chisel. So now that I have one surface completely flat, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Like butter. Perfectly flat on one end. So now I can run it through the thickness planer without having the particle board. And the other advantage of having this particle board on it is it runs through really smooth, like it's slippery on the planer. And you'll probably see on the video, I find that it's even worse when it's cold outside. The rubber feeder on the planer, when it's cold, it doesn't grip the wood as much. So I find that sometimes it doesn't cooperate, so I have to help it through. Ready for next time. You probably could run this through the thickness planer with the glue on it, but I just don't want to. I've just always removed it. So if you know the answer to that, send it in the comments. Am I wasting my time taking this glue off, or is it actually something that has to be picked? And also, another tip, if you have a dog, for some reason my dog loves eating these little pieces of glue. So I make sure that I don't get any on the floor. If I do, I make sure I get it picked up right away because she loves it. The other thing that my dog loves is the oil that I actually make my own oil. I call it board butter. And it's a blend of a bit of beeswax with some, it's actually laxative oil, believe it or not. So it's food, I forget what to call it. This is what it's called. So anyway, every time I use it, my dog, Jersey, gets extremely excited because she absolutely loves it. She would, if I left a whole bowl of it down, she would, I'm sure, consume, eat, drink the whole works of it. And because it's a laxative, that would not be a good thing for obvious reasons. That would be the shits. Again, I don't know why, but I find it so satisfying when the glue just snaps off like that. It's just crisp little. This is an old chisel I use for glue, for doing this. As difficult as it is for me anyway, I find that keeping a clean work area makes the whole process more enjoyable. And more than that, the final cleanup at the end is easier if you keep it clean as you go. So I try to do that as much as I can. It doesn't always work that way. Okay, I'll run these through the thickness planer for the final time. Then after that, cut them into strips, and we're almost done. is another great suggestion, idea. Again, not mine, I stole it from someone else, but works fabulous. Just an adapter to fit your dust collection hose and a shop vac, and you have an industrial size vacuum cleaner. For our next trick, so now I've got the top and the bottom nice and flat, the sides not so much. So now I've got these flat, I can run it through my table saw to get a 90-degree end on here. I will flip it around, run it through my table saw again, and I will have 4 square sides, which is what the goal is. Then I can cut them into thin strips. So to do that, I'm going to use my whiz bang. Actually, just made this yesterday. So we're going to test drive this template for the very first time. I had these clamps in the bit for a long time, but just haven't got around to making this jig yet. I did a video not long ago for this jig that I also use for getting a straight edge. However, this is ideal for thin boards, anything, you know, 3/4 of an inch to an inch maximum, to get a good grip, downward grip on it. I could see I can't even use that, so that's why I built this. And this one is also good for short pieces, but if there's anything longer than that, then this becomes useless as well. So, but this one will work on any side. Basically just going to line up edge with the edge of the plywood. So now I can run this through. Okay, 3 out of 4 are square. So now I just run it through this way, lower my blade,